Hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. I genuinely can't believe we're in December already. How are we all doing? This year has just absolutely flown by, especially the latter half. And yeah, for anyone that is in the chat, I've got an awesome guest with us today. I've been saying it all year basically that I want to start having guests more regularly on the show. And the past couple of weeks have actually been going quite good for the channel. Whilst doing the daily Let's Plays of PSVR 2 games, I've been getting back into the game with doing YouTube shorts and showing clips from the games that are playing. And it's very difficult when you work as director of social media for a gaming studio that you spend so much of your time working on content that by the time you get to your own stuff, you're just exhausted. But it feels like a good flow. And I'm really, really excited with today's guest because it just allows us to get into some more dynamic conversations about things. And also, I just like learning stuff. So going to be joined very, very shortly by Jarvs, who has kindly offered to come on. But firstly, just want to say a massive hello to everyone in the live chat. We got SheBeast3, we got Salvador, we got Agramonia. Hello. Hope you're all doing well. And yes, happy West Day indeed. For those that don't know, Without Parole, that I co-host on Fridays, is happening today with Wes. I actually won't be on Friday's show. I'm going to a gig with my old bandmates in London, which should be fun. So I actually jumped on Without Parole in AJ's place for Monday, which was fun, but it's always difficult doing an 11 o'clock at night show. Especially at the start of the week. My sleeping schedule is a complete and utter mess. Hey, Q Creator, hope you are doing good. I haven't got many updates other than just say a massive thank you for everyone who's been supporting with the channel. And as I've sort of gone into this new phase with content, there's definitely a lot of things I'm planning as we're going towards the end of the year. Which includes even a new channel trailer, because my YouTube channel trailer is like 9 years old now. So in some ways it feels present, but in other ways it's very dated. And so I definitely need to do that. I definitely have a few more grey hairs that I think I should be honest about in my videos now. But yeah, just want to say a massive thanks. And yes, I will say hello to the Schemata Theory guys for you. Thank you for that. So today... I'm going to bring on Jarvs in just a second, who I was recently at Comic-Con in London, and actually I'd never been to one of them before. EGX, which is the European Gaming Expo, was in London every year, and that basically got consolidated with Comic-Con. And so I went to my first one this year, and naturally, whenever I'm going to these events, I'm always looking on social media and on X, and it's always interesting to see who's going to be there, who's talking, and I saw Jarvs come up on my feed, and she's an award-winning accessibility advocate, and she gave a couple of talks, embarrassingly, both of which I missed, which maybe might have been a bit more of an inspiration for this, but I just thought that today would be an awesome opportunity for us to talk about accessibility, especially with a lot of you being gamers, and yeah, also today is and the United Nations always use really unsexy like naming conventions, but it's the International Day of Persons with Disability. So this kind of goes into that nicely, because I think when it comes to gaming and a lot of media, it's all about like, how do we democratize it? How do we make it accessible to as many people as possible? Because when you're enjoying games, like, don't we want everyone to have those relationships with the media that we all enjoy? So I'm going to stop rambling. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone joining today. Don't forget to hit the like button. It just helps get this out on the algorithm. And Jarvs, I'm bringing you on now. How are you doing?
Hello. I couldn't help but laugh there. Yeah, like
which bit?
All of it. Loads of things resonated, but mostly just the fact that where the hell is this year gone? Like, what? I feel like I blinked and this year happened. So I feel you. And hi, everyone.
It's honestly, thanks so much for being up for this, and also because I work in an American company, it's actually kind of nice at this time having someone from the UK join me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're just down the road, down the coast.
Yep.
But my goodness, the days are getting darker earlier now, right?
Yeah, but I like it. I'm a winter baby.
Do?
I like the coziness, and like when it's raining and you're all snug inside and you've got your games on. Yeah, it's the best. I like it a lot.
I was asked a couple of weeks ago because I do a Q&A on the last Wednesday of the month, and I was asked like, do I like does the cold weather in the UK bother me? And I basically said the cold weather doesn't. It's just the short days. I mean, I'm with you. I do like the coziness. I think now I've got some of these lights up, it kind of feels justified with the darkened days. But to be honest, like the cold, I'm happy going out with it as long as like the sun's out. Like that's fine, you know, going out. But and I get, again, working for an American company with the time difference, I don't really make the most of the mornings as much as I do. And it just emphasizes the fact that like start the day in the dark, end it in the dark. But...
Yeah, I feel that. I worked for an American company for a year, so very much was like up until stupid o'clock every day, so that I was in the same meetings and stuff. So I feel you. I've been there.
So how was your Comic-Con? I assume it wasn't your first Comic-Con.
Oh no, I'm a giant nerd, and I've been going to them before I started working in games. I went to MCM, that one in October, quite a few times over the last 15 or so years. When I met my husband 12 years ago, I bullied him into going to them every single time we could. And yeah, we've kind of always gone, and then did EGX first when I started working in games, because then suddenly I didn't have to pay for myself to go, so I can afford to do two. But yeah, and then they consolidated it, and so now it's all just like you said, one event, which I think is a big shame.
I do too. EGX felt really tucked away. Like it didn't. I was sort of there going, "Where's the EGX section?" And it's kind of not even. I mean, there was the EGX zone for like the esports stuff, but like it was just some stands, and a lot of the big players just don't turn up anymore, do they?
No, it made me really sad. Like I mean, even last year, or no, the year before that, when it was still EGX and MCM was like 2 weeks later, they still had more games related guests at MCM than they did at EGX. So you had like Doug Cockle and then the Baldur's Gate cast and people like that at MCM, and you're like, but they're game people, and they're not at this one, and it just felt a bit like left a little bit. I mean, I have quite a few friends now that work at ReedPop, and I think they're brilliant and they're amazing at what they do, and I guess it's just a sign of the times that they weren't selling as many tickets, or there weren't as many people interested in putting on, I don't know, booths and stuff. But as a consumer and as a person that like shows at these events, it's really sad that the UK's kind of lost most of our gaming stuff, because WASD is gone. Like, yeah, it's sad. I'm sad. Hopefully it will come back at some point.
Yeah, it just seems the acceleration of the pandemic, when a lot of the, like even PlayStation, and they're like, oh, actually, we can just do what Nintendo does with their Nintendo Directs, you know. And to be fair, conventions are not cheap. It's been a long time since I've ever been to one, but when I used to go to VidCon in the US, I remember I was given a booth, a very small booth, and had nothing to decorate it with. It was pretty, just had like one banner. But like, if you wanted Wi-Fi for your booth, you were talking into the thousands, and you know, thousands meant even more back then.
Oh man, honestly, like if you're an indie studio and you're putting a booth together for, well, this is 3 years ago when I was like in charge of events, when I was at an indie studio, it cost us $3,000 just for the booth itself, like just the ground, and then all of the banners that they print out on top of it, the rental of the PC equipment, like it just adds up and up and up. It is really expensive. So I tend to get creative with it. So we didn't have a booth this year, but we had a show on the arena stage, because then if you do a really good event, you don't have to pay for the event, you just have to pay for the creators that you get involved in the event. Gotcha. So it's like a little bit different. So I try to be as creative as I can and do it that way, basically. And I've done it a couple of times now, and it's worked quite well.
Yeah. I was going to say this year. It was last year. It was my first and only. I went to Gamescom.
I really want to go.
It is. It's. I mean, I have to say, we had a booth in this, like in the business area, and it was the sort of XR booth. So it was a really cool enclosed area for all the VR developers and that, and it was great. And we were inviting people back there. But I do remember going out into the main halls like during the day, and it is just a river of people. Like I kid you not, guys. It's like, I think they say it's 250,000 people go or some. It's just some insane number, and it was just like kind of too much. So fortunately, because I was there with the booth, I'd be there first thing in the morning and just able to walk around before it
Yeah,
got
you can
busy.
sneak around. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the best bit of working these things. That's
But the size of the stands, like there was a massive blow up Goku.
I
the Doom
saw
Slayer.
pictures.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Dragon Ball nerd, and I was so sad to not get a picture of Giant Goku because I love him.
It was very, very cool. But then we had a booth that year, and then this year some of us were there, but it was kind of like, well, this year we don't need a booth. We can just go and network, and you know, it's just for a lot of people, it's just getting together, and so you got to sort of pick and choose. And obviously, with how the times are, you have to just be a lot more,
choosy about which ones you go. Yeah.
So what were the 2 talks that I embarrassingly missed?
Yeah. So I actually did 3 things because I also did the stage event. But on the Res stage, which is a bit different this year because Barclays usually run the Res stage, but they weren't involved this year. It was actually Reed Pop themselves that were running it. And the guy, I forget his name, but the guy who was in charge of the Res stage, shout out to him. He was like the nicest, wonderfulest, like most amazing person. And he was so into all of the people that he was like sharing with the audiences and really cared, so just shout out to him. But yeah, no, I did one talk on how we got 100k wish lists as an indie studio, with some sort of practical advice on how you can make your Steam page better and make it better for getting visibility, which I'm actually doing again tomorrow. I'm doing that for something else. And then the other one was an accessibility based talk about how to break into the games industry if you are disabled or neurodiverse, because it's a lot harder and it's hard enough as it is, so try to make it a little bit easier to help other people get in. So the other one was about that. And then the arena stage, I was showing off our game. I'm making a factory automation game with our studio, but it's not like Factorio in the way that like you have to defend your factory and fight off waves. It's a creative one. It's like a Zen game where you get to just chill out. And part of that is creative mode where you can sort of build creative masterpieces like a voxel sculpture or a pixel art piece of work. And we had a build off. We called it the Great Modulus Build Off and had 4 creators and 1 digital creator try and build something around the Halloween theme in a 2-hour time slot. And that was a lot of fun.
That is super cool.
Good.
I have seen some clips from your socials of it, and I'm going to be the obvious VR gamer that like, and there'll probably be comments throughout going, we should bring that to VR, like that's the kind of thing. Yeah. But there was a game that actually we published called Surviving Mars Pioneer, based on the Surviving Mars series, and it was so addictive. And the most addictive part was you organizing your cupboards with like the ice cubes that you've got, the ice particles and the copper, and it was all just, but there's no real automation in that game. It's just that you're manually putting stuff up. And there have been a few times where I've played games where you want there to be some kind of automation and scaling up in that way that you can kind of just let things go on. And so I've actually not played any of that genre. I think my brother's played, and he's probably played very well-known games in that genre that I'm just not that familiar with. But when you said that you normally get attacked on, that kind of rings a bell.
I wasn't a factory player at all when I got this job. I just knew the company. So they're called Happy Volcano. I knew them because they did You Suck at Parking. I know, I love it. But yeah, they did You Suck at Parking, and one of my streamer friends had gotten a key for it, and I was watching him play it, and I just fell in love with how wild that game is. It's just stupid and funny. It's basically you have to race to park. So it's like the only racing game where you're supposed to stop. But it's very much like a party fun game, and I fell in love with them from that. So when I saw they had a job, I was like, I don't care what the game is, I just want to work with these people. And then suddenly realized, I need to know about factory games. So then went and played loads of them. Didn't like most of them. I liked Satisfactory and I liked Shapes, but I don't like stress. So I don't like Souls games, for example, because they stress me out. But Shapes is a more chilled game that's made by a guy called Toby, and he's a solo dev with like contractors that work with him, and that's an amazing game. So I was like, I like this. And then I found our game Modulus just to be so relaxing and so just, I don't know, I just really liked it, and I didn't expect to. So if I enjoy it, I can't imagine how much people who love factory games are going to really dig it when it's finally out. That's
super cool. So yeah, in VR we had the Cities VR, which was the city skyline, but in VR. So that is kind of more, I'd say it can be the more stressful side. You have to do like the traffic systems, and you can lose money. But then there's Little Cities that Endreams published, and that was the cozy, like
Nice.
you're
I'd love
building,
that.
and yeah, and it is a super cozy and it's aesthetic and everything. And Looper in the chat actually just said, which I was actually thinking of as we were talking about it. There is a VR game that came out on PSVR 2 at launch called The Last Clockwinder.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
Okay, it's a stunning game. I kind of wish I had some footage to put on screen now. But basically, you're working in this kind of factory that's, I think it's in a massive tree that you're in. But the way that the game works, and actually when we talk about VR accessibility later, this will be an example where the challenges are with VR games. But you're basically a robot. And so what you might do is you might have a dispenser at one side of the room with a seed, and then you need to place it on the other side of the room, or there's a fruit that you need to take and put it in the dispenser. So what you do is you would click a button to start recording, and it's been years since I played it, but let's just say it's a 6-second cycle. So you press record, you'd grab the fruit, and then you'd throw it, and then that robot would keep repeating it every 6 seconds. So you then
I've seen footage of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have seen it.
So you would then go to the next part, and then you'd record the next 6 seconds. But then what happens is once you complete an area, and then you go to the next area, you will see the dispenser stuff dropping down. So you get a sense of like, I'm literally building this entire factory floor by floor, which is super cute.
It gave me, when I was watching footage of that, it reminded me of, I know this is a completely weird comparison, but it reminded me of the early days of Ed Sheeran when he used to do his little record pedal.
Yes,
so like
the loop.
He would,
Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's that, but a game.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's you set the drum beat and then you go on to the next thing. But yeah, it's to do with factory management, which is very, very cool. Hello to everyone who's just joining. Hope you are doing good. Cool. Look, I'm going to be asking you 2 very basic questions to begin with. Obviously, we'll take them one at a time. It's going to be how you first got into gaming, and then how you, and I guess I mean in the gaming industry, and actually this might tie in with it. And then how did you get into accessibility? Like, did they come hand in hand? I'll let you take that any way you want.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, some people will already know my story because I talk about it quite a lot, but I used to be a teacher. So, very, very different to working in games. And I loved it and I didn't want to do anything else. Gaming was very much my passion and my hobby, but I didn't know that I could work in games. When I was a kid, no one told me that games was like a career option, especially for girls. Like, it just wasn't something that we got taught about. And then sort of 2018-ish, I have a chronic illness that I got when I was 17. And I've just very much gotten on with it. And like, I used to use crutches and get on with it, take painkillers and carry on. But when I got to 2018, that chronic illness got worse. And I ended up in a wheelchair full time. And suddenly realized teaching drama from a wheelchair is really not conducive. It doesn't, if I was teaching like maths or English, I'd be all right because I could just sit at the front of the classroom and like go around and talk to kids. But when you have to do choreography and like run up and down the stage and all of it's just not fair to the kids if you can't do it. So took the decision to retire at 28 and then was like, oh, I don't know what else to do. Like, what do I care about? And it was only video games. So kind of just did a lot of research on like what I could do, like what my transferable skills were and if there were any roles that I could fall into. Very quickly discovered that the video game industry is very hard to break into. Like, especially like entry level roles will tell you they're entry level, and then when you go into them they'll be like, yes, but you need 3 years experience. And it's like,
yep.
Yeah, you're like, well, if you let me have a job I can get experience. So was kind of a standstill for a little while. Realized that like my main skill set is talking to people, and being empathetic and being someone that I'm very good at reading a room, and all of those things are part of being a teacher and behavior management and that. So I was like, okay, community management makes sense as like a starting point. But my goal was very much to become a writer because my degree was creative writing and drama. So I did a joint honours. So I was like, oh, I'd love to do that, but absolutely no shot without an experience. Like it wasn't going anywhere. So community was like the only way I could get in. And you know this because this is where we met in the chat of PlayStation Access. But I have been watching PlayStation Access, which is, if you don't know, the UK's and pretty much Europe's only official PlayStation channel on YouTube. I've been watching them since they started, when it was literally Nathan talking to like people in a little office out of PlayStation magazine, and Holly doing voiceovers and stuff like that. I literally remember them doing an interview with Nolan North, and it was like in some looked like a classroom when they made him climb over chairs and pretend
with the shelving. Yeah, it was like on a sofa or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's
still
how
up.
long
I think you
I've
can
been
still
watching
see
them.
that. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I've been watching them for ages. They occasionally did this sort of streaming content back then, but not very often. And this was like the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And I realized that there was a group of people that would show up every time there was a stream, that were always there and like could be a community, but they didn't have anywhere to be a community. And as soon as the stream ended, that friendship ended until the next time. So yeah, sort of took on I'm gonna make this a community, and
awesome.
that's where I started, basically. Yeah,
it's interesting you worded it just like that, because I always thought about it with this live stream that I do every Wednesday is like, once it ends, where does everyone hang out? And so I set up a Discord. It's called Empathy Arcade, and it's an interesting one because I've been doing this YouTube channel 20 years, but I've only done gaming content like 3 years. I've always been a gamer, and so a big thing is, I was actually looking at it, I think since like 2017-18 my subscribers have actually been going down from 50,000, and it's like, as I've made content, I'm gaining thousands of subscribers, but I'm losing them as well. But it's just the churn of what happens with a long-term channel. And so I wanted to have a Discord where it was like, and also when I do this, I have a lot of VR people tune in, but I have a lot of non-gamers as well. But it's about finding that kind of way for everyone to sort of enjoy it together, whether you're a gamer or not. And having Discord set up has been the perfect way of doing it. Although I will say, I am definitely not present there at all as much as I should be. But I'm glad that at least people do have a place to message each other when they're not in here, and it's a nice piece that way. So so that works.
Well, that's what the Access one turned out to be, because like Rob and Dave and Nathan, who were the main people at the time, because Holly had just left, and it was just before Rosie started. But they didn't have like time basically to do that sort of community side of things, and I guess they were not scaled up enough at that point to employ someone to do it, and so the community kind of just didn't have anywhere. So I started a Discord. It was the first time I'd ever used Discord as well, so it was like baptism of fire, because suddenly I had 7,000 people in a Discord server. But it was nice because it gave everybody a place to get to know each other outside of the chat, and to share that passion, not just about Access, but about the games that they love. And it didn't have to be just PlayStation. It could be just wider gaming as well, because obviously in the Access chat in the YouTube, it's stuck to PlayStation, right? Because that's who they're paid by and stuff like that. So it could take it bigger. But additionally, on top of that, is that I said this to you earlier, but the pandemic happened just after we started the Discord, and so Access was streaming a lot because they couldn't do anything else, and so the community were very often online all together, and then wanted to carry on hanging out together. So I started something called After Party, where I taught myself how to stream and started streaming, so that anyone who wanted to carry on kind of just hanging out could just then follow over to my After Party, and we used to hang out there, and occasionally Rob would be in the chat and Dave would pop over, and that it was just really supportive. Even though it was unofficial, they still like showed that they cared. And then we started a stream school to teach other people how to stream, and we ended up with like Access Army TV, where we had like a full-on schedule of people streaming, so there was always something people could do and keep social during the pandemic. And I think it was kind of that perfect storm of like, people needed social time, and this was like, it just happened that we built this community right at that moment, and so they found each other right when they needed it. And now 5-6 years later, we all still are really good friends. Like, I got married 2 years ago, and some of the people that were the first people I made into mods in that Discord server came to my wedding and were my best men. Like,
that's awesome.
yeah, it was beautiful. Like my maid of honor came from Texas. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's Emma, who I think she's I am the walrus in the access chat, but she like we met in the access chat, and she was my maid of honor, and she flew over. So yeah, it showed me how powerful these communities are and how you can make real lasting friendships from it. And I loved it and fell in love with it and thought, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was perfect kind of storm of like rubbish in the real world, but it made it perfect for us in our little gamer heaven.
That's amazing. I mean, the most unnuanced perspective you often hear people say is like the internet's not real life, and I do think that there is truth to it in the sense of don't get wrapped up in everything you see online. Like,
Yeah.
be present in your surroundings. But when it comes to like community and like connecting with people, it just is. You're connecting with real people. Obviously, there are sometimes
Yeah.
fake people out there, and you got to be careful. But like community, I think is the ultimate test of realism for a lot of people, because
Yeah.
the people that are gonna stay around for the long run, you're going to notice, and they're going to be the legit
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
we meet up at EGX as well, which is always
right.
really nice. So, like, I remember the last time Access were there as a group was not last year, the year before, and there were like 60 of us from the Access Army server that all turned up to hang out, and they came and had photos with us and met everybody and talked to them all, and it's so wholesome. It's just really
Yeah,
nice.
wholesome was exactly the word I was thinking as well. So then, being an accessibility advocate, I mean, we can all be advocates of what we want in that, but like
Yeah.
seeing what you have been speaking about at these events, and you're award winning in the space as well. So like, what does accessibility advocacy look like? Because there's,
Yeah.
you know, making people aware of it. There's like implementing the actual solutions. There's connecting. I mean, just speaking as someone who's pretty ignorant when it comes to most of it, is like disability is so diverse these
Yeah.
days that it's just so many different nuances, whether it's visual impairment. It's not just like visually impaired people. You can have these accessibility settings. Like, there's a whole range there. And I guess
Yeah.
my experience with it in terms of on the high level, I would say, is when I look at those with a lot of investment, like Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Games, like I mean, Naughty Dog has always been at the forefront of
Yeah,
accessibility
they're really
settings,
good.
like even allowing you to play The Last of Us if you're blind, because of like it giving you audio cues of like
Yeah.
everything you're doing in the game. And then obviously PlayStation. I can't actually remember what the end name of it was, because it had a
I think
project
it's
name.
Access. I literally
Oh, it
think
is.
it's the Access controller. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to get a picture of this as we're talking about it. But PlayStation basically created a fully customizable controller, which you can just set up with whatever button configuration you want, which is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Anyway, that was a bit of a ramble. Being an accessibility advocate, like, what is that for you? Like, how does
Yeah,
that play
how?
out? Yeah,
Um, so it's very much like I realized, like I said, that getting into games is really difficult. Getting into games when you have a disability or a neurodiversity is like 10 times more difficult. And I realized just how many barriers there were to entry straight away. Um, I am also someone that is not afraid to be the one that says when there's a problem. Like, I will stand up and say, hey, that's not cool. Like, you need to do something about that. And I'm also very aware that a lot of people with disability, chronic illness, neurodiversity are so tired of having to do that, or don't feel like they can do that because they end up feeling like they're a problem or they're an issue, that they just don't. So there is very much a need for people like myself, like Harriet Frailing and Radders, and there's so many amazing people in the space to be the voice, right, of people who can't do it or haven't got it in them to do it anymore. And representation in games, like the games that we actually play, not just the industry, has come a long way for certain subsets of marginalized people. This year in particular, people of color have had some wonderful representation in video games. You look at South of Midnight and all sorts of wonderful games. Same with LGBT, like we're slowly getting more and more LGBT stories, and it's beautiful. Disability, very much less so. There's very much not a lot of representation. And I think that comes from fear, because people don't want to offend people. So if they don't know it, they don't know how to talk about it. And so they just don't. And I did a lot of like talking to people about this, and realized that like the only way we're going to fix that is by having disabled and neurodiverse developers in the room helping design these games, making the decisions, being part of the creative teams, because then it's authentic and the stories are real, and like people won't be so afraid to do them because they've actually got someone who knows what they're talking about on their team. But to get there, we need to break down the barriers of how to work in games when you are disabled or neurodiverse. And we're a long way from getting those barriers down, unfortunately. So that's kind of why I started doing it. And
can I just ask on that? Is the reason that we've still got a long way to go with disability is, I agree, the fear aspect. I mean, I remember growing up, it was the whole dichotomy of like, well, I want to speak to someone, but I don't want to look at them like and come across, speak to them in a patronising way. So people like if they just chilled the F out and just spoke, it would have been fine. Yeah. But it's like people hype it up of like, I just hope I don't like seem like I'm talking down. Like if you're in a wheelchair, you don't want to speak down to someone. Like there's all these things, and so just having the conversations usualised, it's actually the way you get over it is like just not making it a big deal. But I think culturally we need to do better at it. But is the other issue also because like disability, as we've already touched upon, is just a lot more fragmented. Like disability means so many different things.
Yeah, you're right. It's like what's even within like people with the same conditions, like with chronic illness, for example. I have something called pancreatitis, and fibromyalgia. Pancreatitis, for example, I got at 17, and I was the youngest person in the Southwest to have it in 40 years. And so my experience of pancreatitis is very different to like someone who gets it in their 50s, for example. And, so you're right, it's so fragmented, and there are so many different areas of disability and neurodiversity, and that can be quite overwhelming, I think, for people. But at the same time, disability is the only minority that anybody can become a part of at any point, right? So it's also the one that benefits most people if something is done about it.
That's a great point.
And I think people very much think, oh, it's never going to happen to me, and it's very much I'll bury my head in the sand kind of situation. And then when it suddenly does happen, and you've like actively not helped that situation as someone who wasn't disabled, you suddenly realize, oh yeah, I was rubbish.
So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions there are when it comes to accessibility?
I think misconception wise, it's very much that it's a taboo, and it shouldn't be talked about, which is just nonsense. Like I think, and you said this earlier when you were talking about like the way they word the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, like it feels like a big mouthful. Like just call it Disability Day. Like what? Why? And it's because people are afraid of offending people, right? When actually, like most people like own their disability, right? It's just part of like them and who they are. And same with neurodiversity. Like I was diagnosed as dyslexic when I was at university, so I have that as a neurodiversity, but I am currently on the waiting list to be diagnosed for autism and ADHD. And I am like so dumbfounded that I didn't figure that out sooner, because I worked as a teacher with SEN kids and can recognize it in other people, but didn't recognize it in myself. But people think that talking about autism or talking about ADHD is like bad, and you're going to offend people by talking about it. And it's like, no, actually you need to do the opposite. You need to have these conversations so that you can be more aware of these situations. And so many like little tiny changes can make such big differences. And that's one of the big misconceptions, is that companies think, oh, I'm going to have to do so much to be able to adapt workplace for this person, and it's going to cost a fortune, and it's going to be this and that. Actually, you don't. There's things in place that can really help. Like in the UK, we have Access to Work, which is like a government funded organization that, like, doesn't matter what you work, where you work and what you do, they go in and do an assessment and put into place things that can help make that job more accessible for you. And there is a small cost on the business, but the Access to Work end up paying like 80% of it. So it actually doesn't cost the employer like barely anything, right? So there's so many things like that employers just don't know. They just don't know about. And a lot of it comes from ignorance rather than malice. And that's why people like myself do these talks and try and get our faces and voices out there as much as we can to try and break down those sort of assumptions and to make it easier, I guess.
So you work for an indie developer, because the example I gave a moment ago was about like Naughty Dog, who are exceptional when it comes to their accessibility settings, but they have a lot of money and backing.
Yeah.
And so the question, I think, and you probably deal with this in a lot of your talks and that, is for indie developers, is making your game accessible expensive? And is it more of a question of, well, we just need to wait for the big shots to implement it and then we can take those learnings on? Your response?
That's a big excuse.
Yes.
That's a huge excuse. And I am going to give you a really good, clear example of a team that implemented it amazingly, were recognized and nominated for awards because of it, and because of the work they did on the one game that they like put these systems in place, they now have all of these things that they can just use for all of their future games, and it doesn't cost them any extra development time or any extra use because they already know how to use it now. And that's Hyperluminal. So Hyperluminal are a Scottish indie dev team. They made a game called Pine Hearts a couple of years ago, and it's a cozy, beautiful little adventure about a boy whose dad passed away, and he's revisiting the childhood mountain that he used to climb with his dad, and it's gorgeous. But their accessibility features are just incredible. And the reason they're incredible is because they thought about them right at the beginning of development. It wasn't an afterthought, right? It was we want this game to be accessible. We're going to make the effort to learn how to do that right now, right at the beginning, before we then have to change a load of work that we've already done. Because that's when it gets expensive, right? Is when you think about it as an afterthought and then you realize that things you've done are in the way and you have to undo it. And so it costs man hours. But if you bake it into your plan from the word go, then it's just part of development. And one of the things that they did that was really, really, like, I don't know why more people don't do this, is they spoke to people with disabilities and found out what would be useful and how they can make things more accessible to them. And like one of the most simple things that they did was put the accessibility options that are going to make the biggest difference before the start of the game. So before you press play, before you get the opening cutscene, it was, do you need contrast mode? Do you need subtitles? Do you need this and this? And that came from having conversations with people about the fact that half the time, some of these accessibility features will be after a tutorial. So you've had to suffer for your tutorial, probably sometimes not able to do that tutorial because you haven't got the settings. And then you can go into the settings and add the accessibility features. They heard that and they implemented something to change that straight away. And it doesn't affect anybody else's gameplay because you can just press skip if it's not for you, right? So I always shout them out because they're amazing. And I don't know what their game is they're working on now because it's unannounced, but I do know that all of the accessibility stuff that they learnt for Pine Hearts is now being used in their future games. So they're a great example of that. And they're a tiny studio. So no excuses. No excuses.
I like that a lot. I'll definitely look that one up. So as I've mentioned, me being majorly focused in virtual reality and VR gaming, I do often think about accessibility, not just in our studio, but in games as a whole, because VR is often, not always, but is very often a much more physical experience because you're moving in three-dimensional space. There are some where you can just have controllers. I mean, arguably Resident Evil 7 on the PSVR, terrifying game, you use the DualShock controller, so you're not having to move your hands around. And I do feel that, maybe an accessibility option for a lot of these games are that they do allow you to play these games with just the controller, so you're not just having to wave your arms around and that. I know that you're not particularly familiar with VR gaming, but I don't know if in conversations you've had, are there VR developers or that? I don't know. Has VR ever been in conversation in the accessibility space? Yeah.
So I want to be a VR player. Like, I have invested in the PSVR both times, and I want to. But very often, the games that I want to play, I suddenly get into and realize I can't do this because
Can you name some of them?
So What the Bat was the one that I very much wanted to play this time round, and I couldn't because it was very, very, very physical.
Yes.
And I was really sad about that because I was so excited about, like, I literally bought the headset because I wanted to play that game. And I couldn't do it because I've got upper nerve damage. So my top part of my body is just rubbish. So I can't throw my arms around and twist and do all these sorts of things. But I still want to be in the game and be able to look around and like do the VR side of it. I just want to be able to use a controller. And
so what would be the solution for a game like that?
Full remappable controls. So allowing you to play it on any type, whether it's an accessible controller, whether it is the handheld ones that are for VR, but you are in charge of how you use them, or whether it's a DualShock. And I think that very often is a very basic accessibility feature that any game should be doing, whether it's VR or not, right? Like, letting people remap things it's actually quite simple to implement. But so many people just don't do it. And that is a very simple thing, but it would make so many more games so much more playable to so many different people. People who can only use one hand, for example, or have to use mouth controllers. Like, there's so many different things that have been made to allow people to play games, but it has to be also implemented on the dev side to allow people to use those things, right?
You said mouth controllers. I've actually seen these in action, but for people that don't know what you're talking about, these are like the I'm going to say that windpipes.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah. You like blow into them.
I saw a guy who was playing some game like Call of Duty. It wasn't Call of Duty. It was similar, and he's like taking sniper shots, and depending on what he's putting his mouth over, is changing to the scope mode and reloading, and it's like unbelievable. Just the dexterity and.
It's amazing. Yeah. Like, I know someone who plays with their foot. Like, they play video games with the foot. And I'm like, how do you do that? But they know how. And it's because of, like, charities like Special Effect and Able Gamers that have put time and money into helping, like, Xbox make their adaptable controller, for example. And, like, all of these different places, they consult with companies and help them make these things exist. And then also help people get access to those things because they're not cheap. So that's the other thing, is that, like, a lot of accessibility features are really expensive. And again, when you are disabled, there's some kind of statistic that I think it's like £935 more expensive a month to be disabled, in the UK anyway. And then that's without then hobbies on top of that, right? So like, you know, all of these things are really expensive. So charities like Special Effect and Able Gamers allow people to have access to those things. And Able Gamers is the one that I did my certification in. So I'm actually an accessibility consultant. I've been qualified in that. I did a course with them, got a certificate and everything. And that now allows me to go into studios and to teach dev teams how to make games accessible.
That's awesome.
And that's Able Gamers. They're a charity. But they obviously could see that there was an area that wasn't being covered very much. And so they put together a course to help train people to be able to go out and do that. And I've got this little handy pack of cards here, but I've got it's called the design patterns. But it's basically like a tarot card deck of different things that you might need to consider for your game and how you can go about it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so I have that now where I can go to any studio and do a workshop with them and be like, okay, what's the game you're doing? Which of these we need to look at? Let's workshop it and put it in. And it's great. Able Gamers are amazing for coming up with this.
Okay. I'll have a conversation with Flat to VR Studios and that, and see if we can get a conversation going or something. Because I'd like that for a future release. Because as you say, thinking about it as soon as possible. And I'm sure you agree with this. It's not about saying you got to do everything. It's just like anything you do is
Yeah.
an improvement from the baseline that you started at.
Yeah, 100%, right? You do what you can do. Obviously, the more, the better, but
Yep.
some is better than none, right? So where I work now, I joined like very late in development. Like we are releasing early next year at some point. And the game is pretty much done. There's just a few things we're working on. And so I've come in and been like, have you thought about accessibility? And are there things that you need to change? So they are adding them in now. Like we've just added a dark mode in. And there are other things that we're slowly baking in. But we couldn't do any of the things that I would normally do because they'd already made the game. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
So
yeah.
it's now about like what can we do that is feasible that will help the most amount of people. And I'm lucky that my team is so open to it. They're like, yeah, okay, if we can do it, we'll do it. Like they're brilliant and they want to make their game as accessible as possible. Because, and I think I said this before we came online, but like making your game accessible doesn't just help disabled and neurodiverse people, it helps everyone. Like I use dark mode as the example because if you think about how people interact with apps and websites on their phone, most of us will now use dark mode in nearly all of them, right? Like Twitch hasn't been white on any of my accounts forever. It's always been dark mode, for example. And I mentioned to you, but I got bullied the other day because I was sharing my screen and Slack was in light mode because I didn't know there was a dark mode, and our developers were like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that?" But it's true, right? Like so many people use dark mode because it's easier on the eyes, and you haven't got like a bright white screen in your face all day, and it's just like more relaxing. And if you're looking at your phone in the middle of the night when you should be sleeping, it's not going to like wake everybody else up because it's the color of 1,000 suns. Like that is an accessibility feature, but it helps everyone. And it's the same with loads of things. Like I think there was some statistics the other day that I think like something like 63% of players of a particular game, and I can't remember which game it was, played it with the subtitles on.
Right. And that's accessibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guarantee 63% of those people were not all disabled. Like,
right.
It's just a feature that people like having and like utilizing, right? So there are so many things like that that really help to sell your game and to make your game better, whether it's for accessibility or not. So not doing them is counterproductive, right? So
that's it.
Yeah.
And then the other component which we were speaking about earlier is it's the rising tide lifts all boats, which is the more accessible games are, the more people that will get to buy them, enjoy them, advocate for them, which means the developers get more funding, and it hopefully means that more people will get to play, more great experiences from them in future. And
exactly.
I do think in the VR space it's going to be just difficult. It's going to be a steeper climb because of VR is just more. There's more physicality overall. We've had some great suggestions in the chat of games that you should definitely check out, and we'll go over some of them in a moment.
Awesome.
But it's also that with VR, the accessibility even goes down to the fundamentals of VR, which is we always talk about, like, have you got your VR legs, which is dealing with the motions, because a lot of people do VR. And if it's not optimized and in just some experiences, it has that impact. People feel motion sick. And
and then motion sickness can also make epilepsy happen, right? Like it can trigger epilepsy. So those sorts of things have further considerations than just, it makes me feel sick when I play it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a huge deal.
People were asking about the access control. I'm going to bring it up on screen now. This was what PlayStation released, and like just to show you how customizable it was. Chat. This was actually how.
Yeah, you can swap it all in and out.
Yeah, just incredible. And then Xbox have got one as well, which is great to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
the
think
Xbox one's been around for a long time now. Actually, it's quite an old
is
thing.
It? Yeah.
Yeah,
because accessibility, it's like it's both. It's software and it's hardware. But they definitely go hand in hand. And this is really, really good to see.
Yeah, I think we're getting there on the hardware side of things. We've got a long way to go on the software side of things, I think. But again, a lot of that just comes down to not knowing rather than the malice. And I think that sometimes gets forgotten, that people get really angry and they're like, oh, they haven't done this, it's awful. And it's like, have you considered they just didn't know to do that? Like, and having that conversation and being willing to be that educator is like what I'm trying to do, and trying to be like, I'm not having a go at you for not doing it. I'm trying to help you for the future, sort of thing, right? And I think that goes a long way, and it's opened more conversations that otherwise would have been closed off because people were complaining. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy to be that person, I think.
What is the most, like, what do you think the split is with people that you speak to in terms of the responses? Are most people just like, oh, that's kind of interesting, or like, do you find that most developers are like, no, actually, yeah, we can do these things? And
it's very much, there's two different sides to it, right? So making games accessible, I think a lot of people want to do it, and they want to be able to have more people play their games, and they're understanding all the good reasons why you can do it. It's just that they don't know how. So they want to learn, and they want to do it, and that's really great. The other side of it, though, when it comes down to representation, a lot of studios are not doing the right thing, and they're very closed off to doing the right thing in terms of hiring disabled and neurodiverse people. And one of the very basic things that is being a barrier is remote work. During the pandemic, obviously, we have proven that you can make a whole ass video game during a pandemic. Like God of War Ragnarok was pretty much made mostly remotely, right? And look how amazing that game is. And so if you can have a team the size of Sony Santa Monica successfully make a game as big as God of War, there's absolutely no excuse for indie studios to be like, no, we have to be in the studio. Like, there's no good reason for it. And yeah, in the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of studios and publishers return to an in-office model and mandating that staff have to go back into the office. And then equally, when they're hiring, they're mandating that people move for these jobs and are working in office. One, if you've got ongoing healthcare, for example, that you need and you've waited years for, you're not going to want to leave that to move to a different place and go back at the bottom of the waiting list and things like that. But two, like me as an example, when I first started applying, and I was lucky because I was applying during the pandemic, so remote work was more possible. But there were so many jobs I couldn't even apply for because I couldn't get into the buildings. So even if I did want to move, the building they were in, being in the UK and having loads of old buildings without lifts, and, you know, I literally couldn't get into the building.
And it blows my mind that is still such an issue. And it's one of those things that, as you say it, I'm like, well, of course, there's still buildings that are old and that. But I don't know. I just thought we were past that at this point, that stuff was...
Yeah.
But no.
I know. But no, we're really, really not. And like, then those people not being willing to do remote work on top of that, that's where we have a problem, right? Because they can't help the building they're in. Like, that if it's got, you know, protections where they can't change it and they can't put things in place and stuff like that. I get that. But what I don't get is the unwillingness to be flexible. And actually, it's illegal because you have to make these adaptations to make it possible for people to hire, you know, anyone. They will say that that's not the reason why you weren't interviewed, or that's not the reason why you weren't employed. But when you know that you're more than qualified for a position and they won't even interview you because they won't consider not doing remote like as an option, you can't help but feel like that's the reason, even if it's a really awkward situation to be in. And I think some studios are very good. Like where I work now, they have an office in Belgium, but you don't have to work there. Anybody can work from anywhere in Europe, but it's brilliant. Raw Fury, who I worked for before, again, they're based in Stockholm, but they have people all over the world working remotely. And there's never a divide between the people that work in the office and people that don't. You all feel part of the same team. So that whole idea of like, oh, you have to be in there to be on the team and blah blah, it's nonsense. It's just an excuse. It's just
we're a fully remote company, studio, PR, marketing agency, and everything. And like we've just shipped RoboQuest VR, and it was a huge VR game, and that was fully remote. It's just great.
Exactly. Like Blueprints, for example, that Raw Fury have just put out, it's currently getting nomination after nomination, winning awards. Like it got a Golden Joystick for Best Indie. It's nominated for Best Indie and Best Debut Indie at the Game Awards. That was a solo developer and a completely remote publishing team. Like it it was made not in an office very much. It was sold not in an office, and it's an award-winning indie title. So there just is no reason for you not to offer that. Because even like people who don't have physical disabilities, people with like autism, for example, they get overstimulated in an office that won't be able to function because there's too many things that stress them out or shut them down. They could be an S tier employee if you let them work in their own place. But if you don't give them the opportunity to do that, you're never going to find out. So, and that side of things is very closed off.
I perform best in remote work because it just means I can zone out my time, and it's even things like I can do my laundry while I'm working, so I'm not stressing about stuff. I remember the classic days of like you have to have something delivered to your home, like let's say it was a new washing machine, and I got to take the day off work, and then they had to delay it, and I've taken the day off and it was a waste. Like these things are so archaic and just BS, and the fact that we still do it, it's definitely of a bygone era. Chrome Colossus said a couple of things in the chat I want to share. And by the way, you could stay on for like another 10 minutes? Is that cool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, what I recommend is put a queue at the beginning just so I can save it, and can ask any questions that you have for Jarvs for the next 10 minutes. But Chrome Colossus said two things. I'll read them both out and then I'll tackle them. One was yet another good argument for hybrid games, which I'll go into in just a moment. And then I think accessibility in VR could enjoy FF gloves. So I think they mean like gloves as controllers. We always said for VR, like gloves that actually respond. I frequently thought how cool it'd be to feel your way through a VR game without the need for like sight. I think that's definitely a good part of it. So the hybrid games is a big part of Flat to VR Studios and what we do. So Flat to VR Studios is we take flat screen games, and it's really weird calling things flat screen games because gamers will be like, what, you just mean games? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But we distinguish it from VR. It's not like some kind of slight of like, some people say pancake games. Yeah. but we take flat screen games and we bring them to VR because we believe there isn't as much investment. Like you can't, like RoboQuest VR, I would argue, would be near impossible to create as a VR only game. The only reason it was possible was flat screen has a much bigger market. It was made, an indie, Rise Up made it, won lots of awards. And so all the assets have been made in that. It took us a lot of development time now to, how do you do the UI? Because the UI is normally on your screen. Now it's on your wrists. Are there particular triggers that are indicating when you're taking damage, like headset rumble and stuff like that? And so it's doing very, very well, being very well received on VR, which is great. And so we've always felt like hybrid is the way that VR is going to win, because it's even the case with IPs. Like Gran Turismo 7 in VR is phenomenal, and the only way you can have a product of that quality is because it was a flat screen game first. And I do think the way you're going to sell VR consoles is if you say to people, do you like The Last of Us? And just to let you know, as someone who works for Flat to VR Studios, the dream for many of us here is for Sony to team us up with Naughty Dog and let us make The Last of Us VR. Yeah. But those are the kind of system sellers that I think would work. But I also think that's the case with, as Chrome Colossus was saying there, with accessibility, which is if you have games that have accessibility embedded into them on the flat screen, then there's even more of a reason to do it on the VR mode. And it also means, if it's a hybrid game, well, you should be able to play it with regular controllers.
Exactly.
And so that option should be there as well. So Chrome, really, really good points there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions? Last chance, guys. Lots of comments. There's been loads there. I'm going to wrap up with a couple as I'm waiting for some questions to come through. But what games are you enjoying at the moment?
So I am obsessed with Hades. You might see there's like a little Deucer up on my shelf up there. She's my favourite thing in the world.
Now, are you talking about the first Hades?
Yeah, so I was in love with Hades, and when they opened the early access to Hades 2, I was like fighting myself not to dive in straight away, and I managed to wait until 1.0, so I'm now playing 2 on my Steam Deck. Nice. So I don't get a lot of time to game anymore because I'm a mum to an 18-month-old, and he doesn't sleep ever. So I only ever get to game sort of last minute at the end of the night on my Steam Deck or my PS Portal in bed. And so yeah, I've just finished Ghost of Yotei. It
Just
was
want to
okay.
say, can I just say on Ghost of Yotei, this is an example of like working in the VR industry, and I live stream every PSVR 2 game. Is I do not have time for flat screen games. Final Fantasy Rebirth, like Final Fantasy is like 7 is one of my all time favorite games, and I bought it full price. What was it, February last year? And I just lost my job, so I was kind of not feeling it as I was playing it. I was like, I'll come back to this. I just haven't. Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding 2, all these flat screen games coming out, and people complain how long they have to wait. I don't think I'm going to play any of these games by the time Marvel's Wolverine comes out. So yeah, have you completed Ghost of Yotei or?
Yeah, I just finished it because I was taking my time with it again because I don't play much and I've been playing it on the Portal. And actually, that's one thing: games on the PlayStation that rely on the touchpad, playing on the Portal is a freaking nightmare. It's
Is it really?
so difficult using the touchpad on the Portal. But I finally
How does
finished
it work
because
on the Portal? Is it a digital? Is it a virtual touchpad?
Yeah, there's two. There's two. That either side of the screen, there are like two areas that count as it, but you have to like double tap to get it to do some things, and then like Yotei relies on you like drawing pictures with the touchpad, and it doesn't really work on the Portal that well.
But I wanted to play Outer Worlds 2, and it's arrived today, so I'm going to dive into that. I'm so glad it's on PlayStation, because I am a PlayStation girl, and when Obsidian got bought by Xbox, I was like, no! So I'm very glad that I can dive into that. So that's what I'll be doing after this, is starting that one, and then just playing Hades, like doing one run before I go to bed every night. Hades 2 at the moment.
That's awesome. It's interesting you said about Xbox because I was the same, a massive fan of Doom. And when Bethesda got bought, I thought, oh no. And then actually, I tell a lie. There is one flat screen game I bought full price this year, and it was Doom: The Dark Ages, and I played that. Nice. And that actually, I would argue, had a lot of accessibility settings. They basically made it because it's all about parrying. It's more about like melee combat. You could literally customize the parry windows. And there will always be people that go, oh, but then people are going to get platinum trophies easy with accessibility. And I'm just like, screw that criticism. Yeah. It's like, you do it your way. And if people want to do it that way, that's fine. I want people... and I loved it. Hugo Martin, who is the creative director of the new Doom reboots and that. And he just says, we just want to give people the customization, because accessibility isn't just about, some people might get, accessibility is about making it easier. Sometimes it's about making it harder. Like in accessibility, if you can change things one way, like make the parry windows wider, you can also make them even more. So if you want to, slowly scale up, you can do that as well. And I just think that's great. It's about giving choice, right? Awesome. That's what it's about, democratizing.
I think people that have that whole, you're just making it easy point of view, forget that some people people with cognitive difficulties exist, and they still want to be able to play games and still want to be able to enjoy them. And like, because their brain doesn't work fast enough to react to something, like, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to have that experience. It's not about making the game easy. It's about making it playable, right? And I think people just forget that that's a side of it. Like, I have no shame in this. I played the entirety of Expedition 33 with the parry window, like, massive, because when I play it at nighttime. I've already taken my painkillers. My brain is not working anywhere near as fast as it needed to, and not having that on made it miserable.
Right.
So I turned the parry support on, and then suddenly I was a boss. But that made that game a magical experience for me, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without it. So
I love that tangible example, because like some people go, but who would want to turn the parry window? That is a great example. Someone is feeling physical pain when they want to play a game, and it's like, you don't have to use it. You don't have to, it's just about giving choices, because there are cases, and there'll be other reasons for it that you may have not even considered, that other people are going through and stuff like that. So I think that's a really wonderful way. Had a few questions come in that we'll just wrap up with.
Sure.
Salvador was asking thoughts on PlayStation and Xbox accessibility controllers. I mean, we've talked about them a bit briefly, but like, what are your thoughts on them? And obviously a step in the right direction, but I guess my question, in addition to Salvador's, is how much of a step in the right direction is it?
A massive step in the right direction. The Xbox One has done a huge deal for accessibility, and it's been around for a long time now. The the beautiful thing, when EGX was still EGX a couple of years ago, I was seeing more and more developers put it on their booth so that people could actually play with the accessible controllers at booths and stuff like that. So we're seeing more of that happen now. I actually prefer the Xbox One, even though I'm a PlayStation girl. But I think that the PlayStation One is incredible. It's just not made for me, right? So I don't get my head around how I can use it. But the people that can use it and do utilize it have rated it really highly and really like it. But I actually think some of the third-party stuff that's coming out is better and more exciting. I forget the name of it because it's nighttime and I have worked all day, but there's one that has just come out that is like little squares that clip together in any format you want them to. And like each one might have like buttons on the back, buttons on the front, thumbsticks, and you can put it into kind of almost any configuration that you want. I think it's bio something. I forgive me for forgetting the name, but those sorts of things are even more ambitious, and they're like made with disabled people and people having those conversations about what actually would be useful. I think third party is very exciting right now.
Is it BioWave?
Yes, yeah.
Let me see if I can share this.
It's really cool, but again, really expensive. It's not something that you can just buy and hope will work. You need to actually get your hands on with it and test it and make sure it's for you. But yeah, look, they're so cool. You can clip it together. You can make it into a controller. You can just use one of them on its own.
Like the colors.
Yeah, it's really customizable. It's super cool. I think that's the best one on the market because of how customizable it is and how much you can sort of tweak it to your liking.
Isn't that a great conversation to be having of like, that's my favorite one on the market? Like it would a decade ago, that wouldn't even be a thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. So we're definitely in a much better place already. Definitely.
The only other question, Chrome was saying, I wonder if Sony or a third party could come up with a 6DOF. What does 6DOF mean? Access controller that could remap motions for VR motions for VR motions. I do think I feel like I should know what that term means.
Yeah, me too. I feel like I'm being dumb.
yeah. But yeah, I do think that like it is about. Well, this is why I think VR games should have a mode that you can just use a regular controller.
Yeah.
Because the whole reason you need your sense controllers is it's free flowing motion, but they should just have a sort of a debug or a default where. Yeah, you're doing the repeated motion. Minecraft VR on PSVR, you were using the controller. You weren't. Oh, 6 Degrees of Freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to play Beat Saber, right? But I want to be able to play it by hitting the buttons rather than having to move my arms up and down because I can't do that. But I could press up, down, left, right really quickly. And the same with the buttons. But I can't do that. So I can't play it. And that makes me sad because I love rhythm games. So...
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely do. We've got some more questions coming in here, and this is what always happens, you see, once we start wrapping up. I love it. Mistress Vicious VR says, I began learning programming and game dev a few months ago. Is there a place to gather more information on accessibility features that I can practice implementing in future projects?
Yes. So one is Able Gamers. Go to the website. There's lots of information on there. Two, there is the accessible... There's a spreadsheet, basically, that I think the International Games for Accessibility people put together. Games Accessibility, them. It's a spreadsheet that basically has all the things you could do to make your game accessible in categories, right? So it's like bare minimum, like nice to have, shoot for the stars kind of categories, and that's got like literally everything you can ever think of, and it's just a free resource. I'm trying to find where I have it saved because I haven't used it in a while because I use the Able Gamers stuff. But I think if you go to Games Accessibility, they're called the IGDA. Go to their like pages, they will have it, and it's a free resource for everybody. Also, people to follow that also put out a lot of free resources. I'm going to get her actual handle up because I'm going to get it wrong if I try and find it myself.
Well, after the show as well, if you send me a list of these links, I'll make sure that they're in a pinned comment and in the description of this video as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. So it's RVYA. So Aravia She's an incredible accessibility consultant, and she spent like months and months and months putting together a free resource for devs on accessibility. And it's genuinely amazing, that piece of kit that she's put together. She's worked with developers, she's worked with other disabled people, she's like phenomenal. And there's so many people like that are putting together resources. If you type in like to look for it, you will find them. You don't have to look far, they are there. And they're free as well, because people want you to have them. So it's definitely available.
That's amazing. Well, that hour absolutely flew by. I had so many other questions I wanted to go through, but I think, to be honest, the questions that have come in the conversation, naturally, we've tackled all those points. Jarvs, I want to say a massive thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anything you want to plug or finish with, or anything you want to say? Final words?
Wishlist Modulus on Steam.
Okay, yeah. So it's called Modulus, right?
Yep, Modulus. I'm in love with this game, and I'm so proud of it. And Happy Volcano is the best place I've ever worked, ever. Like, it's just the best company, full of wonderful. I love all of them. They're so supportive of me with my disability, and like flexibility with my hours and when I work, and they're just beautiful human beings. So anything that you can do to help them and help get our game seen, wishlisting is the best thing. So
there we go.
Yeah,
this is it. Yeah, I'd love this in VR. And the thing about VR is it doesn't have to be like first person. It could just be this, just 3-dimensional.
Yeah. God mode.
It does look stunning.
It is beautiful. That's one thing I love about it. Is it's gorgeous. That we collaborated with a VR game called Color Cubes. Hang on, let me just check it. Cube Color. Oh, I'm so bad at this time of night. My brain stops working. But they are good. A VR coloring game, and they basically, any game that's like pixel art or voxel art, they have done loads of collabs with, and you can just color in items from different games. So there's like a Dave the Diver collab, there's a collab with us, there's loads of different collabs that they've done, and it is literally just coloring in VR. But we've got, because our modules it's all voxel based, everything is like, you could basically build it out of Lego. It worked really well with that, because now you can just put it in their game and color it in. So that's all in VR. So technically there's a bit of us in VR. But yeah, I would enjoy playing this in VR, because it is very pretty. It's a gorgeous world.
It is. Just look at that. And like, if you did it at 120 frames per second in VR headset, just the buttery smoothness of everything.
Also the sound. So we've got Almut Schwacki is like a incredible sound designer from Germany. She's like a goddess. I don't know how she does what she does. And she has made the most beautiful, calming, relaxing, serene sound and music for this game that I just want to live in it. So playing that in VR, I would just be like, it's just relaxation in your ears. I love it.
And that's it. It is just like this. I mean, VR is literal escapism. So yeah,
I found it. Color a Cube. That's what it's called. Color a Cube.
Color a Cube.
Yeah, nice. Spelt the American way.
Oh yeah, without the U. Yeah. Oh, the joys of that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jarvs. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us as well. As always, always great questions, great discussions. And I will link Jarvs' details in the description and the comment section. So do make sure that you follow Jarvs across socials. What socials are your main ones? X? Do you
Blue Sky is the one I spend most of the time on. If you're a game dev, LinkedIn. I actually spend a lot of time on LinkedIn.
I need to do LinkedIn more. I keep going to it, and I think because I'm only new in the gaming industry in terms of professionally, anytime I do a post, it just dies because it goes out to people in completely different industries. So I need to have a massive clear out. But
dude,
yeah,
I am a LinkedIn queen. I put so much time into getting people to link me up on LinkedIn. But if anyone who's watching wants to break into games and they are struggling, like, LinkedIn is a great place, because there's loads of free resources. There's loads of people like myself who spend time doing CV reviews for people, portfolio reviews, helping with interviews, all sorts of things. So find me on LinkedIn, Jarvs Tasker, if you want help.
Amazing. The last thing we always do on the show before wrapping up, and I don't actually have this animation while we're both on screen, I need to set this up, but it's called Vitamin G. And basically, it's where it was one of the friends of my father had mentioned it. He'd said it passing in conversation. He just says, I like to practice vitamin G, and he meant vitamin gratitude. And he says that every day he likes to just think about something that he's grateful for. And that has always stuck with me. And I've told him that I have merch around vitamin G, and he probably wants a cut of the money now. But it's the idea that, like, it's good for your mental health as well. Like, you don't have to share it in the chat, but just spending a moment every day thinking about a person, a thing, an experience that you're grateful for. Jarvs, do you want to name something that you're grateful for?
Do you know, I literally was thinking about this today. So Jeroen Janssen is the CEO of Happy Volcano. And I love that dude. Like, normally CEOs can be a little bit, like, scary because they're, like, the big boss. I've been very lucky in my last 2 places to have the most wonderful human beings as CEOs. So Jonas, he's no longer, but he founded Raw Fury and was the CEO. He's an absolute gem and I adore him. But Jeroen, who is our CEO here, is the best boss I've ever had. I love working with him. I love that I can argue with him and like say, no, that's stupid, or no, that's a bad idea, and he doesn't get offended. He's got no ego. Like, he trusts me. He knows that I do my work, so he doesn't care when I do it as long as I do it. So with my disability, if I'm in pain in the morning, I just work in the afternoon, and he doesn't care. He champions me. He supports me. He's always in my corner. He's so creative, so collaborative, and I'm so grateful every day that I get to work with him. So, yeah.
I know that's not why you said it, but I do hope he actually sees this, because that's nice. And actually, in solidarity of you, I'll shout out our CEO, Jasmine Muniza, who very accessible CEO. I've had, very fortunately, I've been in some companies with some pretty remarkable CEOs, but for a startup company, it's her first time sort of leading a ship in this way, and especially in a new space like VR, she's always approachable, always willing to test your ideas, but always willing to come to you and have her ideas tested as well. And nice. I do think that in today's day and age, where there is a lot of brutality that you often hear about in the workplace, having businesses and companies where there is a real solidarity and everyone being in it, I think is a testament to the people that lead it and build those excellent cultures. So, I'm very grateful for Jasmine, for sure.
100%.
Callie Time Cat in the chat, and guys, as we go to credits, feel free to share your vitamin Gs. Callie says, definitely gratitude for you, Giles, for this hour. And also, I'll mention the woman I was talking with this afternoon who taught me a lot about mutism. She's a really lovely person. Well, there we go.
Oh, that's really nice.
Cool. Honestly, Giles, thanks so much for being on here. I'll have to have you back on. I don't know. I've always thought about that. Like, I've only just started having guests back on again, but hopefully, if I can make this become a weekly thing, then maybe in the new year we do this all again.
Oh yeah, anytime. I've got a whole nother talk in me about Steam store page optimization, so I can help. We can do that. To be
honest, off air, we probably will have a conversation at some point about it, because I love it. And actually, on the flip side, if there are ever moments where you wanna, if you're speaking to people in the VR space and that, I'm always happy. One of the joys in my position, where I took this ridiculous task of live streaming every single PSVR 2 game, I haven't caught up completely yet. I've got like 35 to 40 left, but I've live streamed around 310. But it's whether it's the apps, it's the indie games, the shovelware, the excellent AAA experiences. In the great games, I have critiques. In the terrible games, I still look at what's good. And it's definitely given me quite a well-rounded perspective of little features that can really make games go a long way. And this conversation we're having alone has really made me think about those accessibility aspects as well. Looper keeps track of me, says 39, but that's probably good. To be honest, it went about when there was 12 weeks left of the year, I had about 45 games, and I was like, if I do them every weekday, I'll be caught up. But there's been so many games coming out, and my company is responsible for some of them. The number just floated at 45 for a while. So anyway, Thank you so much, Jarvs. Thank you very much, everyone. Do hit the like button. Do subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified of all future Let's Plays and future Myles Dyer lives. Next week, we're going to be joined by Mystic Ryan, who does the PlayStation channel. That's going to be great. And going to have many more guests to go on. Excellent guests like Jarvs. How about that?
Thanks. Very kind of you.
All right, going to wrap it up there. Jarvs, just hang and we'll be back straight after this clip.
Sure.
This is the post-credit. Tell us a fun fact about you, putting you on the spot.
Oh my god. I am the biggest Dragon Ball nerd ever.
Are you actually? Because I know you said earlier you were into Dragon Ball Z, but there's different...
I love it.
I watched it because my brother watched it on Cartoon Network as a kid, and I got annoyed because I started getting into it. I watched it, and for those that don't know Dragon Ball Z, you're going to not know what the hell we're on about, but it was the Frieza saga.
Yep.
And... oh my god, when Krillin got thrown in the air with this psychic ability and crushed, like, into dust, I remember, like, as an older brother going, that's the most hardcore thing I've ever seen happen in a cartoon. That is so brutal. I'm in. And then I kept watching it. And then Trunks, like, I loved his hairstyle and his... I wish I could have my hair looking good like him.
I have inspiration.
When he did it with his... what's the corp... Is it Cap Corp or what was the... Capsule Corp. Yeah, his cool jacket, and then he slices Frieza, spoilers, in half, in like just like that. But the joke about Dragon Ball Z is, I think the joke is like, how many Super Saiyans does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is just one, but it takes 24 episodes. Like,
for it to happen.
Yeah.
See, I love it. I just noticed you've got Vegeta on. Your T-shirt is literally Vegeta.
Yeah, it is, but I was told that this company is now shut down. It was a New Zealand company. They were called Just Saiyan, and they create it's the workout shirts, like completely breathable.
Yeah,
and I've also got Goku's tank top, but like this I've had for like 8 years and it hasn't lost its colour and it's been through the wash many times. And
That's so
just
cool.
saying, is the logo?
I want to get Vegeta's Badman shirt for my husband, but I can't find a good one. So if anyone knows where you can get one of those, I need it. But yeah, no, I honestly, I'm an anime girl, but I didn't watch Dragon Ball growing up.
Okay.
And I didn't discover Dragon Ball until Kakarot came out in 2019, and I saw Rosie and Elle playing it on Access, and I was like, oh, this looks fun. So I bought it and streamed it, and oh my god, it ruined me. Like the Majin Buu saga, when a certain death happens in that saga, I was streaming it and I was sobbing, just like, oh, I was like having an emotional breakdown. I cared so much because Kakarot, if you haven't played it, is like the entire story of Dragon Ball Z, like all of it, all of the arc as a story. It's not a fighting game like all of the other anime games that seem to come out. It's an actual game, like an action adventure game with the story. Yeah. And then after I played that, I went back and watched and read everything. So since then, I've like read all of the manga, watched every single series. Like I am completely obsessed with it. It's like my favorite thing in the world.
The problem with it as a kid when I was watching Cartoon Network is you'd watch the Majin Buu saga and then it would suddenly stop and then they would go back to the beginning. So you'd have to watch it for like 6 weeks again. Because they were waiting for like, I don't know, it to come over with the, you know, it was the biggest tease. Yeah. Was it Dragon Ball Z? Was it Budokan? Was that the name of the game?
Yeah.
Budokai, thank you. So what frustrated me about those games was, I think when Budokai came out, it was amazing. And then when the new console came out, it was like they'd removed loads of the characters and features and they start from scratch again. And it's like, I want each time them to like learn on this. And but talking about earlier, I have a list of like my top, like, I think I had a top 10, top 20 wish list of VR games. Dragon Ball Z VR. In VR, I want to literally feel like I'm going Super Saiyan. Like,
that would be amazing.
The energy, doing a spirit bomb. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. That would be so good. Especially, right, imagine, I know this is like me going full on anime, but like imagine a Sword Art Online type world of Dragon Ball where like other people are existing in that world as well, and if you put out a call for a spirit bomb, everyone has to send you their energy. Like that would be you would never get me out of it. I would be in it all the time. Like that's the dream, man. That's the dream. Sword Art Online without the death.
I love it. By the way, this was the best post credits ever done on the show, so thank you for that, Jarvs. Have a good night, everyone. See you soon.
Bye, guys.